this evening we're going to have a little instruction. It's going to be mostly lecture for the 3-hour class, but it's something that we need to do so you guys can drive and shoot guns next week. Just want to kind of give you a little bit of a forewarning to dress to the weather and maybe a little in excess. Make sure you dress a little warmer for the weather. You're going to be outside almost the whole time. Right now I'm working on trying to find out how we're going to transport everybody. I'd like to find something that I can transport everyone from the range out to the airport, because we're actually going to be in 2 separate locations. If that doesn't necessarily work, we'll have to figure something else out. Does everybody here have email address that I can contact?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So what I'll do is, if I find out anything about where we're going to meet, I'll email you if that's okay, and I'll send it to. And I'm hoping what I'm hoping is that we'll meet all at the range and drive to the range, and then I'll find some way to transport everybody out to the airport. We'll split the class in half, and then you'll go out to the airport, drive, and then come back and shoot. And we'll try to get everything done, hopefully before it gets too dark. So have a great class. I'll be back in hopefully an hour or so, and then we'll have Sergeant Rick Lang and Sergeant Todd Tuttle come in and do the firearms class. This is Rick Stamp and Dave Danielson.
Okay. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dave Danielson. I've been with the department a little over 7 years, driving instructor about 4 years, I believe. This is kind of laid back here, so if you guys have any questions during this, please ask. We'll be showing some pretty sweet videos throughout the...
Yes.
I'm the fun one, he's not. So he does all the boring talks and I show all the cool videos.
I'm Officer Rick Stamp. Been with the department for 24 years. Been a driving instructor for about 11. And I also do technical accident collision reconstruction stuff. So if there's a really serious accident, I get called out where there's a serious injury or fatality. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, before we can even drive a car, we have to learn how to control the car. And vehicle control is the continuous combination of driver skill, vehicle dynamics, and the environment in which the vehicle and driver operate to arrive at the destination safely. Okay, that last line there is the most important thing. If you're running hard somewhere and you get into a wreck, you can't help your fellow officer, you can't help that citizen. Okay, you just compounded the situation by you not being able to get there. Steering, braking, and accelerator are tools to transfer the vehicle's weight. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, because when you transfer the weight of the vehicle, sometimes I can help you out of a situation or help you get the car doing something that it normally doesn't want to do. Okay, so we can transfer that weight around where you need it and when you need it. They're just the braking, accelerator, and the steering just are tools to drive the car. Okay. You know, most everybody in this room drives it like you're going to the grocery store, but we drive it a little bit harder sometimes. So this is where the rubber meets the road, the contact patch. It serves as your platform for your vehicle. And the contact patch, if you can imagine your car, 2,000-pound car, has 4 contact patches. They're about the size of the palm of your hand. That's the only thing that's keeping that car from sliding off the road. So when you're doing your steering, your braking, and accelerating, it changes these contact patches. The more of the contact patch you have, the more grip you have on the road. So if you're accelerating really hard, it's going to bring that front end up. On a rear-wheel drive car, it's going to give you more traction in the back, but don't expect to steer very well. Especially if you've got, you know, a high-performance car, because it's going to start lifting those front wheels up off the ground, where you're not going to have very good steering capabilities. So by putting more weight over one particular tire, you increase the size of the contact patch in one area, but it decreases it in another. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing these high-speed maneuvers. When a vehicle changes speed and or direction, it's a fact that weight is moved around the car. Depending on the inputs of the driver and the brake, the accelerator, steering, and any of those combinations. But the weight of the vehicle doesn't change. It's just the distribution of the weight has changed. Everybody's gone around a corner or a curve, and the car wants to keep pushing off to the side. Okay? That's the weight pushing that way.
And you see it a lot now with cars, newer cars that have the traction control and the heck is that?
Oh, like the all-wheel drive stuff.
Yeah, well, the traction control, because you see it when you get on it, you lose, the power cuts out. If you're out of control, the power will cut out. You know, you see that light flashing on most of the newer cars that has that. And you see that where you...
Electronic stabilization, whatever it is.
And you see that where you going around a corner a little too fast and you try to hit the accelerator and there's nothing there. It's trying to equal out the balance of the car to not allow you to get out of control.
That's why in the wintertime, I turn mine off. Because I want to be in control of the car, not the car being in control of me. But for most people, you might want to leave it on. The key to driving is controlling the balance of the vehicle. Balance is the weight, equally distributed over all four tires, and we must control this weight transfer to our advantage. So, we've all been there, icy road, you want to turn left, and your car keeps going straight, and your wheel is all the way over. How do you think you could correct that?
Take your foot off the accelerator.
Take your foot off the accelerator?
And off the brake.
No.
No?
Jam that brake, throw that weight forward, make your contact patch bigger on those tires, but you don't want your wheel turned all the way over, okay? You want to make sure that your wheel is going to be turned as far as you need it to make that corner. But you want to jam that brake, throw your weight forward onto those tires, make your contact patch bigger, get you more traction, you might make it around the corner. The challenge to the driver is to strive not to have any drastic input, but to maintain as much balance as possible. So, like when I just said, you jam on your brake, okay? That's kind of a drastic measure, okay? You're in that pucker factor, I'm going to crash, okay? So, if I'm going to crash anyway, I might as well try to do something to avoid that crash, right?
What does pucker factor mean?
It's when you're... So the weight transfer of your car is the enemy, okay? And once you realize how that weight is transferred around that car, doing certain maneuvers and stuff, you can find out how that car is gonna react to you. But the main thing is to keep your inputs smooth. Your eyes are 99% of the driving. Okay. How many times haven't we seen a vehicle wrapped around a telephone pole or a tree, and that's the only telephone pole or tree in 100 yards around that car? Any guesses as to why that happened?
His eyes.
They're looking at that telephone or tree. I don't want to hit that tree! Your where you're looking is where your car is going to go. In most cases. Unless you're doing 360s down the road. But in most cases, if you're out of control, your car most generally is going to go in the direction that you're looking.
That's why you see a lot of, officers on the side of the road dealing with the car, got a car stopped, and out of nowhere, a car rear ends the squad cars because you're looking over there, so you drift towards that. Same thing with a pole. You're looking at it, so that's where your eyes are taking you. So that brings your hands and the whole car that way. So, we always tell the new people, you try to, if you're out of control, you try to find that open area and focus on that instead of the car or the pole or the tree.
Look for your out. If I would take everybody in this room to the Bonneville Salt Flats and gave you a high performance car that could do, we'll just say 200 mile an hour. There's nothing out there. Absolutely nothing. It's flat. You're not going to run into anything. I'll guarantee that the car is not going to blow up or anything. I guarantee every single one of you would be able to do that 200 miles an hour. Okay? But if we put a blindfold on you, would you be so apt to do that? Because your eyes are telling your brain, hey, it's okay. There's nothing around here. Kind of do this experiment this week. If you're out on the open road or a highway and you're on a hill, take your cruise control off first. But see if you, as you're approaching the top of the hill, see if you lift up on the accelerator just a little bit. Because your brain is telling you, I can't see over that hill. I don't know what's there. Okay? So your eyes are very important in driving. And then, of course, the steering, the use of the brake, and the use of the accelerator. You want to do the rules of 10? Go ahead. Okay, rules of 10. Now, this is where the drastic inputs start adding up. If you're accelerating and steering at the same time, you cannot accelerate at a 10 and steer at a 10. Anything over 10, you're out of control. Okay? So if you accelerated at a 9 and you start to steer, what's going to happen is on a rear-wheel drive car is your back end's going to start slipping out from underneath you. Same thing with braking. If you're braking at a 9 and you try to steer, your back end is going to pass you. On a curve, we probably all seen it, where there's a big, wide black mark with striations in it. On a curve where somebody's gone off of it. Has everybody seen those? That's a critical speed scuff. They're going way too fast for that curve. Every curve has its own critical speed. And I don't care what kind of car you have, if the curve can only handle a 50 mile an hour speed, you can't do 51. Okay?
So when you respond to a situation that's life-threatening or involves extreme property loss, you got to justify your legal use of emergency warning devices, so your lights, your sirens, and I've seen it a lot, and with being one, when you start out new to the department and you get out there, you think it's all about going fast and all that. And as the years go by, you kind of slow down and you try to get there to the call, because everybody wants to go fast and get into a chase and all that good stuff. But like I said, the older you get, you start to realize that you got to get there, and your lights don't mean squat a lot of the times because people are so into their makeup or on their cell phones or reading a book. If you watch people, you see some of the crazy things that people do while driving. Like I said, I've seen somebody reading a book while driving. It's just bizarre. How do we go to the next one? Yeah. The act or instance of chasing or pursuing a fleeing vehicle in an attempt to overtake and apprehend the driver. Again, we're cops, we don't lose. And that's not a good mindset, because then you start to push the limits of driving the car. You get what they call tunnel vision, you know, being in chases before you get done and your adrenaline's going, and when you have time to reflect, you don't know the course or the path you took during that chase. So it is dangerous. A lot of departments are starting to go away from chases. The bad guy doesn't have to stop at stop signs or stop for pedestrians, things like that.
What's department policy on chases?
Right now, we have, for violent felonies only, we used to be able to chase for anything, you know, kind of like Des Moines PD, you chase for a tail light, brake light. You know, our thought was, well, they're running for a reason. You know, okay, they got a brake light out, why are they running? Are they wanted? Do they have drugs? What's the deal? So now it's been back down to, you know, violent felonies, things like that. So it is what it is. Some people agree, some people don't. Again, speeds, know your patrol vehicle. Again, we share these cars with 2 other people. They get their routine maintenance, but again, you still gotta be careful. There are times where, you know, maybe my car's broke down, I gotta hop in, I drive a Charger, so I gotta hop into a Tahoe. You're talking a completely different car now, even from the Crown Vics. By far the Charger, extremely fast in comparison to those two. You gotta watch for other motorists. Lights and sirens, you know, don't really mean anything, especially in the daytime. Maybe people can't see them. Nowadays they're making cars so darn soundproof, you can't hear the siren. So now, I mean, not only are you fighting traffic, you know, you're trying to get to that call in a timely manner or get the car stopped in a timely manner. So, and again, working shifts, I work nights, so I could go the first 7 hours of my shift and do absolutely nothing. And I'm tired, and boom, next thing you know, you're in a chase or you're going to a hot call, and those things can play a factor in how you control your vehicle. So there's a lot of things that go with it. Lights and sirens are mandatory in a pursuit. You gotta use both according to policy. Again, sirens have limitation. You can outrun your siren 90 mile an hour. You can outrun that.
And I've had an experience with that where deputies had a chase down by Lowell, and they were kind of cutting back and forth on the gravels. Well, I heard one deputy had left from the sheriff's office, so I set up on Highway 30 with my stop sticks because I wasn't going to let them, or I was going to try my hardest not to let them get into town if they came this way. And this deputy was just hauling, and I didn't hear his siren until he was already past me. It's the Doppler effect is what it is.
Communication's vital for a response. You hear somebody, an officer, get on the radio and they're screaming, and you can tell they're amped up. Again, that plays a factor in responding to these things. So we try to teach to remain calm. Sometimes it's hard when you're amped up, but the calmer you are, the better it is for the responding cars.
Never, ever pass on the radio.
People do it all the time.
Well, for us,
Oh, for you guys.
when we're going lights and siren, because the code says for the other motorists, you have to pull over to the right and stop. Okay.
So what happened with the ambulance, for those who weren't here?
The truck driver either, I'm not completely sure, but the truck driver pulled over like he was supposed to, and the ambulance was there, and they wrecked.
So
I think there was a couple of fatals in that one too, wasn't there?
again, and that's, like I said, people get so preoccupied in their car with everything but the road, whether they're thinking about what they got to do when they get home, or what they're going to have for dinner, or they're texting, or they're trying to make a phone call, whatever it is, people forget to use their mirrors and check their mirrors from time to time to see what is behind them. Like I said, you see that a lot, and it makes it more difficult for us. Like I said, the daytime, sunny day, the lights are harder to see, and with, like I said, with the cars being more and more soundproof, you don't hear the sirens until we're right up on you, and then you panic, and then that becomes a problem.
Well, during the day, running down Center Street, hot to a personal injury accident call. I'm in the left-hand lane, and there's still people that, well, I want to turn into Walmart, a block and a half away. So you're following behind them, and then they pull over in a little turn lane to turn into Walmart or wherever. Come on. You know, get over as quickly and as safely as possible.
Subject to all traffic regulations, unless there's a special exemption. So just because we're going lights and sirens to a call doesn't mean we can just blow the stop sign or the stoplight. We still got to slow down and look, make sure it's safe to enter the intersection. Specific exemptions only enforced when vehicles in the emergency mode. Again, when we're cruising around, we still have to stop and obey all laws. We can still be criminally or civilly liable for crashes, even with our lights and sirens on. We're not any better than anybody else. Like I said, we still got to pay attention when nobody else is. Situation in which there is a high probability of death or serious injury to an individual or significant property loss in the action of the emergency response vehicle driver may reduce the seriousness of the situation. So again, we can help control what happens. Like I said, people get weirded out, or whatever you want to call it, when they see lights in their rearview mirror. Heck, I still get nervous when I get pulled over. I don't get pulled over, but if I do, I'd be really nervous.
But if Murphy, we're driving along and we are legitimately in emergency mode.
Lights
We're
and siren.
lights and siren, we're going to an emergency. And Murphy raises his ugly head and something bad happens. When we get sued, that's what is going, that's what the judge or jury is going to look at, is, was it a true emergency? If it was, it takes a little bit of the pressure off of us. Okay? But we still have to be careful.
Again, a lot of those,
Yeah.
everything plays a factor.
Are there times when you run with just lights and no sirens? And if so, when is that? Because I've seen it.
Sometimes, excuse me, like on an alarm call, like a business alarm call, we might do that.
You want, when we run just lights or burglaries in progress, robberies in progress, our goal is to get there quietly, because if we come in loud, you may create a hostage situation. The bad guy may get away. And some of that, again, depends on the nature of the call, where you're at in town. You know, if I'm down south, the call's up north, like I said, some guys will go to a large fight call and they'll use lights and sirens because they want it broke up by the time they get there. Some of us just run lights because we want to get in on the action. Seriously, it just depends on things like that. Again, maybe they ran lights and sirens halfway through town and then they shut their siren off to get to the other half of the town.
Because, I mean, let's face it, you can hear those sirens quite a ways away.
When can I operate in emergency mode? Responding to an emergency call. We talked about robberies, burglaries, domestics, anything. And like I said, fight calls. You want to get there to reduce, especially domestics. You know, you get called out, it's a verbal domestic. You want to get there in a timely manner so it doesn't become physical. So you want to, some of those are emergent, some of them are just, 9, 10 over the speed limit. Pursuit of an actual or suspected perpetrator of a felony. We talked about that. In response to an incident dangerous to the public, accident at Center and Anson, vehicles are still on the road at 5 o'clock at night. You want to get there so you can block off the road so there's no more crashes. Responding to but not from a fire call. Again, get into the house fire so you can make sure everybody's out. When you're done clearing the calls, you're back in normal driving mode. Exceed the speed limit so long as life and property are not endangered. Again, gotta slow down at intersections. This town never sleeps, so even at 3 o'clock in the morning, there are people out walking around, and I am guilty. I've probably almost ran over a couple because people don't illuminate themselves when they're walking in the middle of the road, and I'm not expecting them there. Must use lights and sirens unless attempting to pace for a speed violation. You get a car going the opposite way, going 50 in a 30. You want to get turned around and get to that car safely. So you want to get your lights on because you're going to be exceeding that speed limit to catch up to them. When you're pacing a car, say you're following a car and they're going 70, and so you want to pace it going 70, you're not going to turn on your lights because now they're going to slow down and you're not going to get that pace on them. So So like we said, still drive with due regard for the safety of others.
So what is due regard? It's very situation specific, but kind of a definition that's been kind of floating around is would a reasonable, careful operator performing similar duties under the same circumstances act in the same manner? Okay. So, for instance, at high noon, driving down Center Street at 90 miles an hour, would that be due regard? Probably not. Probably not. At dark 30 in the morning, driving down Center Street at 90 miles an hour. We've all done it.
A-okay.
You just gotta watch your side streets, because people will pop out of them unexpectedly.
Again, yeah, so like you said, it's the time of day. A lot of that stuff's time of day, and I hate to say it, but try to tell new guys to not drive outside their means. I'm not gonna tell you what that is, but don't fly around out of control just to do it. Know your limits, know the limits of the car, and be safe, because it's not worth it. You got to live with the fact that you just killed a family of 4 because you're being dumb, or you're going fast to a call that is maybe iffy, you know. So those are things that I personally wouldn't want to live with. And like I said, the older you get, that's what you start thinking about. Doesn't mean I'm less likely to get to a call and help somebody, but now you're just more aware of these things. Violation must rise to the level of recklessness as opposed to negligence.
So what is meant here is negligence is, you know, you stopped at the stop sign and you pulled out and it wasn't clear. Recklessness is blowing that stop sign at 90 miles an hour. Okay, that's kind of what the difference is.
Oh, mercy. Don't be reckless.
What?
I don't feel like reading all this to these guys.
Limiting personal liability for the consequences of high-speed chases. Rather than mere negligent conduct, will provide for vigorous law enforcement without placing innocent bystanders at undue risk. This is an Iowa Supreme Court decision with Morse v. Leaf. It was down in Des Moines. It was a chase where the suspect vehicle slammed into a car and injured a third party. Well, since the suspect didn't have any money, and lawyers love to sue cities and governments because of the deep pockets and a lot of times the willingness to make it go away, decided that they were going to sue the officer and the city of Des Moines. Well, long story short, the courts came back and said no, because that officer cannot control what that other guy was doing. And if we find that the police cannot, if they get into a chase and the person who they're chasing hurts or kills somebody, it's not that officer's fault that guy was running. With the what's the word I'm looking for? With the understanding that if they take away more of our tools, that we're not gonna be going out and apprehending people. Okay? So, this kind of helps us a little bit with with being sued, but, anybody can sue anybody for anything these days. Just find the right attorney to do it. The court will judge your actions on these aspects. Was a situation a true emergency? Okay. Did you exercise due regard for the safety of others? If you violated due regard for the safety of others, does that violation rise to the level of recklessness? Okay. So, that's what the judge and the jury is going to be looking at to determine, okay, is this officer okay, or are we going to levy a huge settlement in this case, or is this officer going to go to prison? It could happen. If you run a stoplight at 90 miles an hour and kill a family of 4, that's recklessness, and it's vehicular homicide. I guess I can talk about this case now, that ATV case down there by Swift's. What just happened?
I touched the button.
I covered a ATV accident down by Swift's. The ATV was designed for only 2 passengers, had 4 passengers. This ATV was a Polaris Razor, Polaris Razor. Very, very fast ATV. They were westbound on Marion Street in the grassy area on the north side of the road. Came off that curb where the shag trucks store their trailers. When they hit the other curb, the back end popped up. One of the kids flew off, hit his head, and died 3 days later.
So, what I teach to new recruits, and I tell my wife and my family, and I do the same thing. I don't drive my squad car any different than I drive my personal vehicle. My head is always scanning intersections. I don't, when I sitting at a red light and I see that green light, as soon as that green light goes, I don't take off. You don't know who's not paying attention. Wait that extra second, look before you pull out. And, maybe you avoid an accident or a crash, maybe you don't. But like I said, always be aware of your surroundings, because nobody else really is, it seems like, with everything that goes on. So, like I said, I challenge you guys to try that. Look around, be aware. I mean, most of the time I'm looking for people that are wanted or not having a valid license, but it still all plays into that. And again, with road rage, things like that. That car in front of me is going slow for a reason. I'm stuck behind it for a reason. I may never know what that reason is, but there's no reason to get antsy and ride their butt or try to go around them. It's not worth it. If you need extra time, leave early.
Okay. I'm going to pass these around. Be very careful of these. These are actual stop sticks that have been run over. And how the stop sticks are designed is there's a triangular piece of styrofoam in here. And if I can get this out without poking myself.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
I know I am.
Is that reckless?
For him, yes. You're taught to stay behind cover and throw the stop sticks and not even by your vehicle.
Yeah. We have 80 feet of cord when we throw these. And when we go out and practice with them, I tell the guys and gals on our department, utilize every foot of that if you have to. Because something like that could happen. So like I said, these are actual stop sticks that have been run over. They're decommissioned.
Are stop sticks just a one-time use?
Yes. And what is inside of the styrofoam here is a little roller pin with a little barb. And this thing is very sharp. I'll pass them around, but be very careful with it because it'll draw blood. That sticks in there into that roller pin just like that. And they're all, I can't remember how many are in here, but they're all crisscrossed, so no matter how they land, if they get hit, a tire's gonna get punctured. So once the car runs over this goes into the tire, this drops out, and this is a straw. And lets the air out of your tire.
Slow enough.
At a slow, controlled pace. Be very, very careful.
Do multiple go in a tire at a time?
There's,
Yeah, one car hit this. And you can tell that there's 4 of them that went in, just from this one, 4 of them went into the tire. So you hang on to the reel, you toss them on the other side of the road, take this reel, and you walk way over here, out of the way, lock your reel in, and then when the bad guy comes, you take that, start running, pull the stop sticks out into the road, let the tires go thump thump. And remember when we were talking about communication? My radio number is 434. 434, I'm set up at Center and State. I've got stop sticks deployed. Hey, I better slow down because I don't want my tires getting deflated. Because it has happened. A couple of times on our department.
Oops.
I hope you guys enjoyed the driving part. The driving is actually much more fun than the presentation, but Dave's a fantastic speaker, so is Rick, and a lot more fun to work with, actually. This is Sergeant Todd Tuttle, Sergeant Rick Lang. There are 2 members of our firearms instruction for our department. They're going to teach you about some rifle, shotgun, and handgun work, and good luck presenting my material.
He likes to take credit for a lot of things. All right, good evening, guys. My name is Todd Tuttle. I'm Sergeant with the Marshalltown Police Department. I currently work the patrol. I've been working for the city of Marshalltown for 11 years now, every year and 4 months with the city of Ottumwa. I've got prior military, 5 years in the Marine Corps, 3 years in the Iowa National Guard. Currently one of the firearms instructors, the rifle instructor. I'm also the sniper on the SWAT team. So we're going to go over some stuff tonight. I'm going to cover a few things here. Okay, I'm going to cover the M4 rifle. there's a big misunderstanding as far as why we have these and why we need them, and actually how they work and what they're good for. Okay, we'll go over these guns. These are the guns that patrol officers do carry. Okay, the history of the AR-15. It was first designed by Eugene Stoner, who sold the design to Colt in 1959. That was pre-Vietnam, when they were getting into this, when they actually started using them more and more. It was widely marketed to various military services around the world. Contrary to the popular belief, the AR and the AR-15 does not mean assault rifle. That's just something somebody threw on this as a tag, assault rifle. It's just a model number that Stoner used when he designed the weapon for the Armalite Corporation. There are many different variations of these out on the market today. There's just hundreds and hundreds of them. They are very popular, and they are a very useful gun. They are a very good gun. Okay. And actually, what that guy was using, I think that was a mini, is that a mini 14? Which is kind of like a predecessor to this. It shot a 223 similar to what this shoots. I'm pretty sure that's what he had. Here's just one version of what we use. That's what we started out with, was the AR-15, but we've kind of expanded to different types. As you can see, this one's mine. It's got just a different, it looks a little bit different, but it basically functions the same. Okay, so why do we need these rifles? Number one, the accuracy. Number two, the distance we can use them at. And number three, they are capable of defeating body armor. Kind of go over these each individually. These are accurate. They have 1 minute of angle of accuracy, meaning at 100 yards, this gun is capable, in a perfect world, of creating a 1-inch shot group at 100 yards. At 200 yards, it can do a 2-inch shot group. 300 yards, 3-inch shot group. That's basically all it means. They are highly accurate. Number two, the distance. Okay, the handgun, your maximum accurate range is 25 yards, and that's, you know, even in a stressful situation, that's not even going to be pretty. That's on the range in a perfect situation. They're pretty accurate out to 25 yards. Shotgun, okay, it says here maximum accurate range is 50 yards. For these ones that we've got, I don't even like to shoot them at 50 yards because they are not that accurate. I wouldn't trust to pass 25 yards to get a good accurate shot off. They're just not that reliable. Okay. There are a lot of shotguns out there that are capable of, you know, accurate shots out to 150 yards, just not the ones that we use. Okay. The rifle, the maximum accurate range is 100 yards for the average shooter. I could probably get somebody out there on the range, have them shoot this a while, get them out to 100 yards in the prone, and they'd probably be able to hit a nice body size target at 100 yards. Pretty easy. It's the other positions that it gets a little more complicated in. If you're a more advanced shooter, 200 to 300 yards, even beyond that, you can go out to 500, 600 yards with these if you know what you're doing. Okay. I'm not saying we would actually do that, but they are capable of it. The reason the use of these type of weapons, the rifles, came about, kind of started a while ago at the University of Texas Administrative Building. Does anybody know what happened there?
Shooter killed approximately 30 people.
Yeah.
Power could be reached.
Yeah. Charles Whitman killed 16, wounded 32 using high-powered rifles from the top to tower. Law enforcement was only armed with handguns, shotguns, which did not have the effective or necessary range. They had to go and borrow rifles from the citizens and the gun shops. Eventually, they were able to get them pinned down, advance on him, and take care of the situation. Handgun and shotgun rounds will not defeat personal body armor, most personal body armor. There's some less protective stuff out there that it might go through, but most body armor is designed to stop handgun and shotgun rounds. This will go through it like hot butter. Okay. Now the bad side is we're not protected by it either. Then. So another reason why we need these. Okay, North Hollywood shootout. Everybody remember what happened there? That wasn't too long ago.
They had full body armor and they had fully automatic weapons, and I think
that was a bad situation.
They
yes.
used a lot of rounds.
Yes, they had fully automatic weapons, semi-automatic
The
weapons,
LAPD
body
had to
armor.
go get rifles.
They had some, but not quite as many. Not what they needed. 11 officers, 7 civilians were injured by 2 heavily armed bank robbers. Both wore military-grade body armor and had AK-47 and M16 rifles, which is a version of this. Police officers were armed only with 9mm 38 special pistols. Some had 12-gauge shotguns. All were ineffective against the body armor. They had appropriate AR-15s from a local gun dealer. I think there was some SWAT members that had rifles, but of course, you know, they're not out on patrol at all times, and it takes 30 minutes for them to get in and get to the scene. Well, everybody remembers Columbine, 1999, population 2,400, 22 people killed, 21 injured. Copley, Ohio, 2011, population 14,000. Gunmen went running through and a neighborhood killing 8. There's many other situations out there. Here in Iowa, Algona and Humboldt, Iowa, 17-year-olds killed 2 convenience store clerks in 2 separate robberies. Keokuk, Iowa, 2011, Deputy Stein is killed by a lone gunman during an active call for service. Common myth about the rifle. It's widely believed that the rifle rounds will shoot through many objects. I hear that a lot. Well, if you shoot that, it's just going to go through buildings and walls and people. This situation is referred to as round over penetration, meaning it's going through what you actually want it to and getting stuff behind them. Okay. The .223 round, or the 5.56, which is what these shoot, it's just 2 different types of rounds, is designed to tumble upon entering a barrier or an object dispersing its energy rapidly, meaning it'll go into something, it starts tumbling really quickly, and it just tries to dump all its energy so it has no speed or anything left to come back out on the other side or not go very far. The 12-gauge shotgun slug will travel further through a barrier or object than the .223 or 5.56 round will. I mean, if I was to shoot through this wall, this one will probably go through this one. Maybe the next one tumble, and it'll be tumbled and probably dispersed by then. The 12-gauge, it'll go through several of those walls and keep on going, just because that round is a solid piece of metal with a whole bunch of energy, and it just keeps punching holes. So
you're shooting slugs?
In the shotgun, yes. We have slugs and buckshot for the shotgun. Generally, we carry slugs because when you come upon a situation, generally you're going to have distance first, and the slug is going to be more effective for the distance. And then maybe if you're in a close-up situation, you'll switch to the buckshot. Okay, the facts. A .40 caliber pistol round will travel approximately the same distance or slightly further through an object or barrier as a .223 round or 5.56. The .40 caliber is what we carry in our pistols. That's our pistol round. There's been numerous bare gelatin tests. I've actually witnessed the Hornaday Tap one several times now, 3 or 4 times. The .40 cal goes in approximately 15 inches into a bare gelatin. 12-gauge slug will go in 30 inches. The .223 goes in about 10 inches, 10 to 14 generally, and it stops.
So the .223 is basically a 22 shell, 22.
Yeah.
What is the other one? 5.6. What is that?
5.56. That's just the millimeter version of it. It's 5.56 by 39.
So you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing.
It's the same exact thing.
Civilian versus military NATO.
There's a little bit difference in them technically with pressure and headspace, but nothing you need to worry about there. If you have a 5.56, you can shoot both. If you have a .223, you can only shoot the .223 just because of the 5.56 was for the military, and it's got higher pressure. Okay, I'm going to talk about disguised weapons and toy guns. I get a lot of questions about those, and people see it on the news. Why was this person shot? Because he was carrying a BB gun. Okay, this might help you understand a little more. Okay, disguised weapon. What does that look like to you? Kleenex box. It's actually a 12-gauge shotgun. Okay, that's a joke. Okay. 2 guns here. These are Beretta. It's Beretta 9mm. So let me drop the magazines too. Both have magazines. Which one's real? Which one's fake? So if I pointed that at you, or if you pointed that at me, or if I pointed that at you, would you shoot me?
Yeah.
Would you be afraid?
They both look like they're real.
Yeah. Okay. Don't be fooled by an orange tip. This is the real one. This is the toy. This is what we carry. Can you tell the difference? Which one's the toy? Which one's real? Orange is the toy. This one's the toy. This one's a real one. It's just tape on there. Which one's a toy, which one's real?
Toys the orange?
You've got about half a second to decide. Anybody want to guess?
I think the toys the orange.
This one's fake?
I think that one's fake.
The orange is real? No, this one's a real one. They're toys, it's just, that's what people want. It's the wrong use of them that gets people in trouble. And don't get me wrong, we're not running around seeing little kids playing with guns, shooting each other and jumping out and treating it like a real gun, okay? We use common sense when we're out there on the streets. But there are older people, adults, that will disguise weapons as toys or carry around toys, committing robberies and stuff like that. People think they're real. Okay, I think we just had a robbery a while ago at Yonkers that it was a BB gun. Okay, that's still considered a deadly weapon. But it's still a BB gun that looks real. You know, even the ones that don't look just like real guns, when somebody comes running up to you and points a gun at you, you're not going to sit there and kind of check it over to see if it's real or not. Okay, you're going to assume it's real. That's all I have on this part of it. We will go over our guns here real quick, and then Sergeant Lang will take over and go from there. Okay, not to confuse you with the toys here. I did cover this slightly. This is our M4 that we do carry. We have probably 12 officers certified on this now, 10 to 12 I think, the last count, that do have these. In my opinion, the more of these that we can have on the street, the safer our officers are going to be, the safer the public's going to be. Okay? These are not the big bad guns that everybody perceives them to be. When in the right hands, they are very good weapons, they are very good tools. These are the Glock, these are 22s. We carry 22 and 23s, which the only difference between them is just the length of the barrel and how many rounds it holds. They basically look the same ones, just a little bit shorter. They shoot the 40 cal round. And then we have the trusty shotgun, Remington 870s. They shoot the 12 gauge. We shoot slugs or buckshot in. I'd like to see, we have some female officers that are interested in actually getting certified on that, and that's a good thing. I think they'll be more comfortable with this once they get out there and actually shoot it. It has less kick and it's a lot easier to shoot than the 12 gauge is. So I would like to see them get certified on these if they feel comfortable on it. And actually we do have quite a few that are interested in it coming up here, so hopefully that'll happen.
I'm Rick Lang, sergeant on the midnight shift. Todd and I have a lot of it in common. We're both former Marines, so I've lived and breathed with the M16s for 4 years. I was lucky enough to be on the range with those. Right now I am not only firearms instructor, but the Glock armor with Todd and the armor for the rifles means we fix anything that happens to them. The Glocks are pretty simple as far as repair goes. They come apart as far as the officer goes. They come apart in just about a few pieces. This is in half, and this barrel, and as far as the officer goes, this is as far down as the officers will field strip the Glock. So they're really easy to clean and maintain. What Todd and I do, we tear apart the insides of these and the insides of the trigger mechanism that's inside here. One thing I like to hit on, do we have any Vietnam veterans in here? No? Okay. Well, when the M16 first came out, they rushed it into the field in Vietnam, and it was not field tested and certainly wasn't jungle tested. So there has been a few improvements due to that. It was slow in coming, but other than that, since the 60s, the inside workings of that rifle hasn't really changed at all. They added a chrome chamber because it was rusting in the jungle, and a forward assist in case there was some sand or junk that got in there, so they could make sure it went back into battle ready. Basically, we treat everything like they're loaded. There's no such thing in my house as an unloaded gun. So everything I pick up is loaded. On the Glocks especially, there's a lot of internal safeties on this thing, but as far as externally goes, the really only safety is you can barely see it, but there's a little button right there. And if you don't depress that little sliver of a button that's located right in the middle of the trigger, this will not pull back. So you gotta actually have your finger all the way under the trigger before you can pull the trigger on it. That is really the only external safety on the Glocks. So what we practice, this is your safety. This finger never goes into the trigger unless you're ready to shoot at something, either a target or person. I never accept a weapon that's in battery, which is closed up like this. It's got to be locked back to the back. I've got to be able to see all the way through there so there's no magazine in there. And then I visually and physically inspect the chamber where the round would go in at. And this is how we make them safe. The first thing you do is you pull out the magazine. You work the slide several times just to make sure nothing gets hung up in there. And then you lock it to the back. There's actually a button right here that I have to push up on to make it go into contact with the top of it. It's just a spring-loaded pin. And what that does is when the magazine runs empty, it will lock it back automatically to the rear. And this is just a cutaway of what happens when it's firing. And some of the safety, this little pin right here going up and down is a firing pin safety. You can see when he pulls the trigger, it rises. Without that trigger being pulled, it's sitting down and it is blocking the firing pin. So you could drop this thing from a very tall building and it's not going to do anything because that firing pin is blocked by that piece of steel right there. And this is a trigger bar assembly. It's going back. It gets pressed down after it loads up this firing pin spring, and then it'll come down and release that pressure or that energy and let the firing pin go forward. Very important. As you can see, this is all machined steel at the top of this. So your grip is very important. There's a lip right here on the plastic part of this gun. You got to make sure everything stays underneath that slide. If you get over the top of it, it's either going to break your thumb or cut you or do other nasty things. So a good grip is just as high up in here as you can with the web of your hand, and then wrap it around, and my finger automatically goes on the outside. We use different stances. When I started here, it was on a modified weaver, where you kind of stand and bladed to your target, and then you push out mostly with this hand. You're pulling back a little bit with this one to get solid up. I've changed over the years. Things always change. To stand more straight on, and I'll show you a little bit why we do that when we get down to the range next week. Basically, it's to give more of my vest to the suspect. When I turn, my vest has a big giant hole in it where my arm comes through, which means a round can go through that. So what I do is center up more, and it's more of an isosceles, where it's a nice triangle, both arms are out stiff. Side alignment, especially at distances, it's important to have good side alignment, and I might have a picture of that hopefully. But basically, you concentrate on that front sight post. The front sight post should be very clear, should be centered up and level with the back sights. Trigger control is where you get your accuracy, and it's really not squeezing the trigger, it's just a nice steady pressure all the way to the back. Breathing, it's important to stop your breathing every time at the same place that you're pulling a trigger, especially with a rifle. If you're breathing when you're shooting the rifle, you'll have your rounds will climb and fall. You'll have a perfect line. The worst one for kick wise is the shotgun, and it will kick. So you got to make sure you really pull it into your shoulder well, and keep a good contact with your shoulder, and a lot of force back there, and it won't be too bad. On the rifles, these are recoil operated. There's a big buffer spring inside this grip, and there's a blowback system. Actually, when the round's going off, all the gases that are following it up, there's a hole in the barrel that brings back a tube in here, and that'll operate the bolt and push it back. So the recoil on these is practically nothing. It's really nice weapon to shoot. The recoil on it will amaze you if it's barely not there. So this one won't hurt you at all.